Thank you, everybody. I will now call the Community Safety Committee meeting to order at 6:04 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This meeting is being held in person and electronically in accordance with the Municipal Act. We don't have any public meetings, open delegations, or presentations or standing item committee updates right now, but we do have a referred item. There are two of them actually, and one of them referred by General Committee on August 16th, 2023. The first item is correspondence from City of Woodstock, referred by motion 23-G-186, correspondence from City of Woodstock, amendment to the Highway Traffic Act, permit municipalities to locate automated speed enforcement systems, ASE, permanently or temporarily. Can I have a member of committee place the correspondence on the floor to be received?
I'll put it on the floor.
Thank you, Councillor. Courser, it is on the floor as received. Any questions from members of committee? Any questions from non-members of committee? Councillor Reitman.
Not sure it's actually a question, but I'm hoping that the city can actually write a letter to support this because it makes, to me, perfect sense. I mean, if we can put speed cameras in community safety zones, I don't know why the province doesn't trust us to know enough in our whole city where we ought to put them. So just to be limited doesn't add up as far as I'm concerned. So, and I know we're very reluctant to lick postage stamps and send a letter off to some minister, but I think in this case, it makes perfect sense.
Thank you, Councillor Rima. I'm going to jump in. If anybody, non-members committee have a question, they can jump back in after this. Ms. McAlpine. Hi. Could I ask you, can do it anyways, but can I ask you for your opinion on this? The reason I'm going to you specifically is you have many years of service to the city of Barrie. You've seen good letters, you've seen bad letters, and everything in between and its effectiveness. So I'm curious if you have an opinion, maybe you do, maybe you don't, about essentially the question Councillor Rima asked about the effectiveness, purposeness, and whether it's something that if we do, what can we expect?
Thank you, Chair Morales. I think we have a mixed track record of responses to our letters. Generally speaking, the province or federal level of government may at best provide an acknowledgement of a letter that was sent by the municipality. Rarely do we get a more detailed response. So I think it's difficult to judge the effectiveness immediately, given the often lengthy time before a response is received. And it may be a period of time before another level of government enacts any legislative change. And it's difficult to know whether or not that was influenced by correspondence that may have been sent several months or longer prior to that.
Thank you, Ms. McAlpine. I do not regret my decision on asking you. Might I provide some color on this for you, Councillor Rima? I think we have the Big City Mayors Caucus group. I know the name keeps changing. This might be something that you might want to, and he's right here, ask the mayor to have a conversation if they're having similar discussions there. I know they talk about bigger, more macro issues, but safety obviously is a prevalent issue, and maybe we'll get a better discussion. Mayor Nettle?
I was actually, thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just wondering, under the Ontario Highway Traffic Act, would that fall under the Ministry of Transportation? It would? Okay. Secondly, I think that maybe our strategy with letters should actually be to our local MPPs to put pressure on the government. Unless it's a strategic issue for the city, at which point I think we should engage with those ministers. So it's up to committee, but I think that like if we just send a random letter off to the minister, we're going to get random results, which I think is what Ms. McAlpine was actually just saying. But if we have somebody that we can then try to hold accountable, if that makes sense, that would be our local MP.
It sounds efficient. No, which is great. Thank you, Mayor Nettle. To close off with some feedback, and then I'll go to Councillor Courser. Councillor Rima, might I suggest reaching out to one or both of the MPPs, and possibly if you want to have it on a more open forum than just the meeting, which I've had meetings with the MPP representing my riding before. maybe consider informally inviting them to come do a presentation council. I know in the past MPs and MPPs come and talk. It's not that frequent, so maybe it's once a term. But that might be something that you can consider establishing, that they come once every 2 years or something. And that is now a public forum where the questions you're asking, you're getting the answers on the record, and you can ask more than one item.
Yes, I'm certainly open to doing something like that. Yeah, I guess what we're really looking for is how are we most effective in influencing what our parent does, and what permissions they give us. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ask one parent and ask the other.
yeah.
Councillor Corson.
Asked and answered. I was just about to say the exact same thing. So thank you.
We are on the same page. Love it. Okay, so we've put it on the floor to be received. Any other questions, Mayor Nutt?
So rather than an item for discussion coming forward at a later date, I think that it's actually maybe a good opportunity to include in the motion that we have on the floor an invitation to our provincial and or federal representatives. We're almost a year in right now. I don't think we've heard from them unless I was sleeping during that meeting. That might be a good opportunity, and also to frame out what the specific request is. So I'll look to the clerk to inform me on what I want to do here, which is A, receive it, but B, that correspondence be an invitation be extended.
That an invitation be extended to our provincial and federal members of parliament.
Representatives, yeah, members, yes, members, yeah.
Ms. Cook?
Through you, Chair Morales, do you want just to leave the invitation open, or did you want to add any specifics to what the invitation's about, or just
Maybe for an update, and we can extend, members of council can extend some questions in advance to the members, so they're not showing up with no answers. Otherwise, they'll just show up with no answers in advance, Madam Clerk.
Is that sufficient, Ms. Cook?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, so the motion is on the floor as read out loud. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Perfect. It passes unanimously. Thank you very much. We are now on to the second one, which is referred by motion 23-G1-187, correspondence from the town of Erie, short-term rental controls for Airbnb, Burbo, and others that affect municipal rentals. Can I have a member of committee place correspondence on the floor to be received and discussed? Placed on the floor by Mayor Nuttall. Any questions or comments from members of committee on this first? No? Non-members of committee have any questions or comments? Councillor Reed.
I think just a comment, and that is that we could add this to our list when we meet with our representatives. I was the one that suggested that we talk about this one here because it's an issue in a couple of our wards, right? And I don't necessarily agree with what the town of Fort Erie has said in their motion. I think that we ought to be looking at the province for a framework in terms of how we regulate these or how they regulate them. I think that the province of Quebec, for example, is looking at regulating Airbnbs as a result of that fire that they had. And I think it makes a whole lot of sense for the province to either regulate them or give us a framework that we regulate them within, because it makes no sense for one municipality to do one thing and one municipality to do something else. It's not very efficient and effective. So I think if we add it on to our shopping list with our provincial folks, then I think that's a good idea.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Councillor Rietma. Any other questions from Councillor Hamilton?
Yeah, just to add what Councillor Rietma was saying, and I fully support adding just to the list, because it has been an issue when we've been looking at other municipalities in terms of what they're doing, and they're all handling it differently. There's no consistent approach. They're all running into different headaches and problems. We met with staff here about some of the concerns that we're having, and they said there was only actually 9 complaints last year in relation to Airbnbs citywide. However, I don't know if that's an actual real capture of the issues that are happening within the city, because unless they're complaining, a neighbor's complaining, say about an Airbnb down the street, unless they actually specifically reference them as being an Airbnb, it doesn't necessarily get captured in the data. And at the same time, a lot of these complaints are involving police because there's noise complaints. So again, those aren't captured in city's data. So we know it's an issue. It might not be as big of an issue as some of the other municipalities, but I think it's becoming more and more of an issue. And I think the province does need to get involved. We do need to have some provincial regulation on this so that we're not all struggling and approaching it differently and running up to, challenges. So very, very supportive of this.
So a top-down solution, not a fragmented
Yeah.
one. Thank you, Councillor Hamilton. Ms. Schlichter, on the Airbnb issue about like Town of Erie doing their advocating, do you have anything to add on the Airbnb, not issue, on the Airbnb situation from a local perspective, from your lens?
To you, Chair Morales, in terms of the conversations around our relationship with Airbnb specifically as a short-term rental, we do have an agreement with them as it relates to the municipal accommodation tax. We are aware that there have been a couple of complaints related to some specific areas of which we are engaged with Airbnb directly on and working with their team on that lens. Is that?
Yep. You're in conversations with them and you have established, some cities don't even have that. So Toronto, it takes away units for people to live in. I think what we're having is a little bit more, there's some very desirable on the waterfront properties that are becoming hotbeds. So everybody has a different flavor, and thank you for the update. Okay, Mayor Nuttall.
I think an interesting part of this conversation is the conversation we've been having today, Councillor Morales, you and I, Mr. Chair, with regards to what the federal government's expecting as of right on properties. And so if you think about, specifically the waterfront properties, but I don't think that this is just a waterfront issue. But if you think about the waterfront properties, they're usually, not always, in Ward 8, there's some smaller ones, but they're usually of greater size. And the federal government, it looks like, wants us to take as of right, 4 units per property. And through that, you could have 4 separate Airbnbs going on. And so when we're considering the other things that we're going to be working through, we probably need to consider this part of it as well. And I don't think it directly affects what we're going to do here tonight, but just to sort of highlight that as a potential going forward.
Yeah. Somebody tearing down at $1.8 million on Royal Oak Drive or Kempfelt is, I don't think it's happening, but somewhere more along Minette's point where it's maybe older homes, that could be a possibility. So I'm glad that it connected to some of the issues we talked about. I know we talked, I think 12, 14 issues. I'm gonna have to loop back on you on some of those, by the way. But no, it's definitely a comprehensive discussion. Does anybody have anything else to add on this issue? Councilor Corson.
Just to echo what you said about we don't have that kind of impact on our community. Well, we have a limited rental stock as it is in our community, and some of our neighboring communities like Collingwood and Wasaga Beach have much more challenges with the amount, just the sheer amount of Airbnbs that they have and short-term rentals, but still it impacts us as well because we do have such a shortage, and that's a conversation, especially when there's a pressure to meet standards and to hit numbers. We need to have that conversation as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Corser. If there's no other questions or comments, I'll call to a vote on receiving this motion. I don't think we need to amend it to receive it and ask because we've already done the invite. So we'll just the clerk will note that we're just receiving to accept the referral of this motion as placed on the floor. I'll call to vote. All those in favor, please indicate. Passes unanimously. Thank you. Reports of advisory committees, there's 5 of them. You can do them all at once. So I'm going to go quick. Report of the Seniors and Accessibility Advisory Committee dated May 15th, 2023. Report of the Town and Gown Committee dated May 16th, 2023. Report of Seniors and Accessibility Advisory Committee dated June 19th, 2023. Report of the Town and Gown Committee dated June 20th, 2023. And report of the Senior and Accessibility Advisory Committee dated September 18th, 2023. Could I have a member of the committee place the advisory reports on the floor to be received? Mayor Nuttall, any questions or comments? Mayor Nuttall.
I just want to highlight, and I'm going to look to Eric in my office on this quickly. The Seniors Advisory Committee, where there's some discussion with regards to newspapers and delivery. That was, I believe, September 19th. Is that correct, Eric? The last meeting? Or 18th, sorry.
You could turn on your microphone here.
Yeah, I'm just checking the minutes now, but I do believe it was either the last meeting of before the summer break or the fall one. If I look, work plans on the 18th meeting, it refers to the Barrie Advance newspaper going to digital only and the challenges there.
So I just wanted to highlight that for members of council or members of committee, I guess, and eventually members of council, because it is something that seniors, specifically those who are facing accessibility issues that aren't, that don't find the internet very accessible to them, will struggle with. That's been voiced there, and not sure what we can do about it, but I thought it was worth a mention.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of receiving, please indicate. Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. No reports of officers of corporation, but we do have items for discussion, and there are quite a few of these. To the clerk, could we accept, sorry, so we are accepting items for discussions. This is where we're essentially approving the items for discussion, right? We're not receiving reports. This is, they've made it out of the task force stage and they're here for essentially to the next level, correct?
Chair Morales, yes, they are just here for committee's consideration, and they would move to the next step, whether that be staff reporting back or actually actioning the item.
Okay, thank you. The reason I started asking these questions is all of these are very localized in nature, like ward specific investigations. Besides the fact that maybe a member of committee wants to vote in favor of all of them, but not one, that's the only thing flagging. Could I, as a chair, move all of these in a cluster?
You certainly could. I would just read out the titles that you're doing in that cluster, and then I would just probably ask if any of the committee members had any concerns, and then just take those ones out.
Perfect. There, thank you very much. Mayor Nuttall, you had a.
Yeah,
Comment
I'd
there?
like to move in two separate motions, if that's okay. I'll move 8.1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, and 9. I'm going to leave out 8.7 because it's not a staff investigation, it's a staff direction. And then I'll move that one next as well.
Okay, so just to confirm, we're gonna leave out 8.7 and cluster the rest, correct? Perfect, okay. As always, if you find yourself, like if a member of committee goes, didn't think I had any problem with this, and then when it's read out loud, you do, just let me know, we'll separate it. Because we all know I've done that where I didn't have questions and then all the questions came, so I want to be fair. Okay, so I'm gonna start with the first cluster, 8.1. Investigation of an all-way stop or other pedestrian safety measures, Cudrington Street and Rodney Street in Ward 1. The other one will be 8.2, investigation, no parking anytime, Sydenham Wells and Penetanguishene Road, Ward 1. Investigation, 8.3, installing a stoplight, Johnson Street and Grove Street, Ward 1. 8.4, investigation controlled pedestrian crossing, Livingston Street West and Longman Drive in Ward 4. 8.5, investigation speed reduction on Lake Shore to 40 kilometers an hour in Wards 2 and 8. Excuse me. 8.6, investigation 2-hour parking limit, Davidson Street, Ward 2. 8.8, traffic bylaw amendment, no parking anytime on Quanzi Street, Ward 7. Apologies if I mispronounced it. And 8.9, investigation for 3-way stop and Street North and Hammer Street West in Ward 4. Could I have a member of the committee move those? Perfect. Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. They're on the floor as read out loud. Does anybody have any questions or comments on those motions from members of committee? Seeing none, non-members of committee have any questions or comments about these? Perfect. Okay, so seeing no questions, all those in favor of approving those items, please indicate. They pass unanimously. Thank you. And then yep, 8.7, no parking Downing Street in Ward 7, that staff in the Development Services Department be directed to make the south side of Downing Crescent from numbers 1 to 8, inclusive of the curve and the road east of number 8, a no parking zone. And that is sponsored by Councillor Harvey. Can a member of the committee put the motion on the floor? Deputy Mayor Thompson has put on the floor as read out loud. Any questions from members of committee? Nope, non-members of committee? None. All those in favor, please indicate. Passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, my phone's happy. So there's no other questions, so we will adjourn the meeting at 6:24 PM. We'll see everybody for city council at